11:04 on a Thursday morning, and welcome into the Gamecock Central Takeover Hour. Pearson, not Preston, sorry, force of habit. Pearson, Wes, Chris, here with you in the Herndon Chevy Studios. A lot to get to on today's Gamecock Central Takeover Hour. I want to dig into one of my favorite things that Chris does on a regular basis, which is the star comparison ranking for South Carolina and Kentucky. We'll continue to delve into some of the key matchups as the Gamecocks are now only about 4.5 to 5 point underdogs with some huge developing news. I won't say breaking news, but developing news out of Lexington, Kentucky that we'll start with here in case you have missed it. But first, we'll give you a chance to do what? What do we do on this show? We give you money.
It's time for your chance to win $100 and qualify in our $25,000 signing bonus contest. Just text the following national keyword to 95819. Your national keyword to text is
assets. Okay, interesting. ASSET. Asset. That's your keyword, asset.
Text
ASSET.
that national keyword to 95819. Standard text messaging rates may apply. Please don't text and drive. The $25,000 signing bonus contest on 107.5 The Game.
As an added incentive, since most of you hate me, every time that somebody wins, that $25 comes directly out of my paycheck. So y'all make sure you keep texting in the keyword.
Am I eligible?
I think so.
I just realized
well,
this. Nah, probably not.
I don't know. You're you're a contract employee now, I think, right? Since this is a regular thing.
I'll get a Google Voice number and text in, say this is Clark Christopher.
Yeah.
I would like to win, please.
Clark Christopher. That could be it. That could be a name.
Yeah.
All right. So developing news. Had y'all heard rumblings of this? I didn't see it until I woke up this morning because I go to sleep early now because I'm old. But last night at about 9:45, it was Matt Jones of Kentucky Sports Radio saying that Will Levis is considered questionable for the game on Saturday, and it wasn't the finger injury, but it was a foot/ankle that he suffered against Ole Miss and has been in a boot for most of the week. This took. Were y'all monitoring this?
No, I was not. I mean, I saw it last night with everybody else. I don't know the timing. I know at one point Brian Edwards, the Vegas guy, not the wide receiver who does some work for us.
Not why, Brian.
Had tweeted about it as well. So hey, when Vegas, I don't know, man, those guys know about everything, it seems like. So when that line started dropping the way it did, kind of tells you something, I think. For one, most of the time a foot injury, even if you play, it doesn't just magically heal up, and not that we have any idea how severe or not severe that it is. Mm-hmm. But as a quarterback, even stuff as simple as just your footwork, handing the ball off, running toss sweeps, dropping back, throwing the football, those things matter. So I think it's certainly something, at the very least, that you're going to be heavily monitoring, and at the most could be a major factor in this game.
Can Kentucky's backup pitch a toss sweep like Will Levis can? I mean, as a first round toss sweep.
Did you see those NFL fumbles on Saturday?
Yes,
too?
I'm being sarcastic.
Yeah. Kai Sharon.
No, he is good though. I joke about Levis like he's good.
Yeah, he is good.
I think he can be. He's in spots. He's quite good, but I do like making the sarcastic jokes just because. I mean, I turned on the. I think it was the NIU game. It was either NIU or Ole Miss game, and it took approximately 15 seconds for the broadcast booth to have an all-out just session.
Will Levis party.
Yeah.
I mean, they had Todd McShay on the sideline, like specifically for that. And I think Todd McShay is like pretty reasonable about what he's like on the high end of a normal evaluation of Will Levis, and they were just like, oh,
yeah,
it was insane. So I'm sure we'll hear more of that. Was it one of you guys or Preston that said earlier in the week, just like a battle of the guys that look great throwing against air, Will Levis and Spencer Rattler? It's gonna be tough.
He can. I mean, there is some truth to that, I mean, and Levis, I mean, he's had some near misses this year. On some of the deep balls. I mean, there was one he put right in there against Ole Miss that was actually dropped. So, if he can't play or if he's limited in some capacity, like that is a storyline. Putting aside all the jokes that we've already seen about the backup quarterback and all that means it's curtains or whatever.
Well, yeah,
I mean that makes a big difference.
That's where I wanted to start. Like the easy, and this is a real case of Occam's razor. The easiest, most obvious solution is probably the right one. If Kentucky doesn't have Will Levis, they are less likely to win the game on Saturday. I have seen two different versions of this developing story spun into doom and gloom, one of which, of course, is the invocation of the curse of the backup quarterback against South Carolina, which is, doesn't really mean anything. If we are going to make that into a real point, I will say a lot of times when that's happened, the drop-off has been a lot smaller between starting quarterback and backup quarterback. Oftentimes where there was a quarterback controversy at some point in the season, this is a guy that might be the third best quarterback in the NFL draft and a guy who has no stats.
Yeah, I don't know, y'all. I feel like that whole, backup quarterback's gonna win the highs. Is that not entirely overblown? I don't know. Like maybe I've deleted some games from my memory, but like I'm trying to think of the last time that.
Well, it's like TJ Finley a couple of years ago.
Yeah. What are the games? That's what I was going to ask.
There was the backup for Georgia who set the NCAA record for completion percentage.
Okay, so now we're going back to 2014, 2015.
Well, those are just the two that jumped into my brain. I'm with you, and I feel like people are making a joke out of it, but I've seen it enough of like people are joking, right? Like everyone is making the same joke.
Well, it's like they're joking, but it's one of those like I feel like it's a joke that they believe is in reality. Yeah, and I'm like, but I really don't feel like, and TJ Finley, yes, he had a great game against South Carolina. First of all, he's a pretty talented kid anyway. I know it's been an up and down career for him, but you play at two SEC West programs. You've got some talent. And it really wasn't that he lit South Carolina up. It was that LSU just ran the ball directly down South Carolina's throat. Now, there may be some, I think that's what Kentucky is certainly going to try to do this weekend. So maybe there is some carryover there. But
someone texts Kenny Hill, although he was the starter.
He was a starter.
He won the quarterback battle that offseason, and that was game one, so I don't think that counts.
And that was the worst Carolina defense
ever
that we have seen.
Probably,
right?
Yeah.
I mean, definitely that we have seen.
Yeah, for sure.
I don't think that's hyperbole to say that. Like, you look back, the totality of that defense throughout the season, it wasn't just Kenny Hill going up and down the field on
Was
him.
that also the Hudson Card, or what was his name?
Hudson Mason.
Hudson Card is a
Texas,
yeah. Was that also the Hudson Mason year?
Mason was 2015, right? The slant game.
Well, wait, is it Hudson? I thought Grayson Lambert.
Grayson Lambert, you're right.
Grayson Lambert.
Yeah, I totally messed up. You're
Georgia,
right.
Georgia had a run there. Some ringers at quarterback. Wow.
Grayson Lambert, who South Carolina, I believe, recruited.
Yeah, they did.
Some.
Yeah, I don't know why I said Mason. I mean, obviously he was a Georgia quarterback, but I guess I just...
Yeah, Grayson Lambert. And that was the game they didn't force a third down, much less a fourth down. It was just like, it was literally like they got their first downs on first and second down.
Georgia was 1 of 4 on third downs in that game. Grayson Lambert, y'all remember how many passes he missed?
It was like none.
It was 1. He was 24 for 25, 330, and 3 touchdowns.
Wasn't it like T. Martin's record that he broke or something like that? That's too much digging now.
It might have been Connor Shaw's record.
Connor Shaw against Tennessee, maybe?
Connor Shaw against Missouri.
Okay.
Missed on the first throw of the game and then hit the next 20.
Wow. And so he didn't even get the record for most consecutive completions to start a game.
And that kind of counts, right? Like he wasn't a backup for Georgia, right? But he had lost his starting job at Virginia and transferred to Georgia. And I guess won that job.
Zach Calzada last year at Texas A&M.
See, that one I had deleted, I guess. Did Calzada take over that week, or he'd already taken over, right?
Because Haynes King got hurt in like this. He got hurt early, I think. So he had been the starter for, I would say, at least a month. Honestly, the only memory, I watched that game at, well, I guess I shouldn't say, but I watched that game out at a restaurant, which I do very seldom when I watch football. But the only thing I remember from that game is the punt return. That is the only memory I have from that entire football game.
I just remember, I think the Braves were playing.
I think I ended up watching
in the World Series.
Oregon was playing somebody that night. I ended up watching more of that game.
Yeah.
I don't remember. All right. There's one other variable here that I've seen people expressing concern in light of the potential Will Levis injury that I want to circle back to, specifically the matchup of Kentucky's offense against Carolina's defense. So we'll dig into that a little bit on the other side. Still to come, we will get Chris's thoughts on the star power comparison. He's written the piece on Gamecock Central. We'll get the highlights from him coming up in just a little bit, and want to hear from you guys. 803-404-6100. Love Chevy phone line, text line. You can get us on Twitter at Pearson Fowler, at Wes Mitchell GC, and at GC Chris Clark.
The early game with Bill Gunter and Jen Jensen.
South Carolina does what they need to do. They won a game by 36. They blew someone out. They ran the football. Those things you can at least be positive about this morning.
Yep, no doubt. You finally got to be sitting in Williams-Brice Stadium in the fourth quarter, and you were able to relax a little bit. I think one thing that Shane said one time is dead on, and I really appreciate the fact that he said it, hey, we're always going to celebrate wins.
On your home of the Gamecocks. 107.5 The Game.
This is Damon Amendolara with the CBS Sports Minute, sponsored by Prevagen. The Red River rivalry is one of the best games in college football every year, except for this one. Both Oklahoma and Texas both have 2 losses already. Neither school is ranked, and the usual hate has been replaced by shrugs of shoulders. It's a sad day when the Red River is more lazy river. This is Damon Amendolara.
Douglas is a real Prevagen user and paid testimonialist.
My name is Douglas. I'm 79 and I live in Chicago. I'm a writer, director. I used to be a marathon runner. Now I'm a walker. And the kind of work that I do, you are surrounded by people who are all younger than you. Memory became a factor. As everyone gets older, where did I put my keys? But I had to get help to stay competitive. I happened across Prevagen, and I started taking it. I saw myself having an improved memory, which at the same time, I felt better about myself. I could not be doing what I'm doing today had it not been for Prevagen.
Prevagen, healthier brain, better life. Prevagen is available in stores everywhere. Based on a clinical study of subgroups of individuals who were cognitively normal or mildly impaired, this product is not intended to diagnose, treat, cure, or prevent any disease.
This football season and every football season, come to campus and catch a game. Whatever the game, whoever you're with, just catch a game. Find your tickets online at GamecocksOnline.com.
You wash your hands, you brush your teeth, but what about the nose? How do you clean your nose? With Navage. Navage uses powered suction to pull saline in one nostril, around the back of the nose, and out the other nostril, flushing out allergens, mucus, and germs. And it's why cleaning your nose, the body's air filter, is the next evolution in daily personal hygiene. People try Navage for lots of reasons. Sinusitis, colds, allergies, snoring, things that make it hard to breathe through your nose. But over time, they find that cleaning their nose makes them feel better, a lot better. Over 3 million Navage users have written more than 100,000 reviews, averaging 4.7 stars, saying, best product I've ever used, and amazing, I love my Navage. Navage helps you breathe better, sleep deeper, and snore less, but the biggest payoff is improved health. Navage is good personal hygiene and can help you stay healthier. At Walmart, Walgreens, CVS, Rite Aid, Target, and online. Navage, N-A-V-A-G-E, clean nose, healthy life.
Attention, anyone shopping for a new Jeep, turn up your radio now. Announcing the special order $1 sales event at Galliana Chrysler Jeep on Greystone. Here's how it works. Visit Galliana Chrysler Jeep on Greystone and order the exact Jeep you want. Put just $1 down. Plus, we'll give you a $1,000 special order discount. No limitations, no exclusions. Just order any Jeep model, any Jeep trim level, and it's yours for just $1 down and $1,000 off MSRP. Best of all, your price is locked in, and you're protected against a Jeep price increase. Other Jeep dealers are charging tens of thousands of dollars over MSRP. But right now, you can order the exact Jeep you want for just $1 down and $1,000 below MSRP. Gotta go to Galliana. $1 down, $1,000 below MSRP Jeep sales event at Galliana Chrysler Jeep on Greystone. I-126 Zoo exit in Columbia. Call 779-7300 or GallianaSC.com. Example 2022 Jeep Wrangler. $1 down, $618 per month for 60 months at 4% APR. Plus tax and tag includes $225 closing. Expires month end.
Got an appetite for football? Football Saturday and Sundays are back, and you can catch games all day at Twin Peaks. Grab a 29-degree draft and check out our scratch menu. Visiting during the week? No one does happy hour like Twin Peaks. Whatever your preference, we have everything from tequila cocktails and an extensive bourbon menu category to top shelf spirits and cocktails served over ice. Local craft beers and handcrafted whiskey cocktails round out an adventurous drink menu second to none. And don't forget about our 29-degree man-sized drafts.
Ray Magliozzi here for eBay Motors. So you're teaching your kid to parallel park. He likes to do it by feel. Don't worry, eBay Motors has bumpers and headlights. 122 million parts. Get the right parts at the right prices. eBay Motors. Let's ride.
Broadcasting live from the Herndon Chevrolet Studios. This is 107.5 The Game. Stop by or shop online today and see why Herndon Chevrolet makes you smile.
It's the Gamecock Central Takeover Hour.
Presented by Firehouse Subs. Founded by firemen with Pearson Fowler,
Chris Clark, and Wes Mitchell.
On the home of the Gamecocks.
107.5
The Game.
Minutes after 11 o'clock on a Thursday morning, and welcome back into the Gamecock Central Takeover Hour. Pearson, Chris, Wes, here with you, talking Carolina, Kentucky. Huge developing news out of Lexington that will have an impact on the game. Wasn't even going for the Will Levis pun, but it will impact the game one way or another. We'll continue to unpack how it might as we continue here. I want to remind you, too, to join Heath Klein for Game Time. Coming up tomorrow from Columbia Craft, 3 to 6 p.m. He's going to be out on Columbia Craft at on Green Street. Columbia Craft can be your game day headquarters, and they're proudly distributed throughout the Midlands by KW Beverage. So if you want to go see Heath Klein, catch Game Time live in person. He will be out at Columbia Craft tomorrow from 3 until 6. So the curse of the backup quarterback aside, which is not really a real thing, one of the other concerns that I have seen people express about Will Levis potentially being out with a foot/ankle injury on Saturday is that it would force Kentucky to run the football more. And I think the last decade has justifiably made Carolina fans very afraid of Kentucky leaning on running the football. The numbers haven't been great. Chris, you watched every Kentucky game for the last 5 years, all 22 yesterday afternoon, which is very impressive.
Thank you.
Is the Kentucky offense as bad as advertised at running the football?
They are not as stout. They have not to date been as good as we are accustomed to seeing. And when we talk about the Kentucky identity, you always think of running the football, playing defense, all that. And that changed a little bit once they got Will Levis in the program. They were able to throw the football much more effectively. They were able to
throw the football.
Yeah.
They didn't have a wide receiver at quarterback.
Throw the football and somewhat effectively, and you look back early this season, there's some games where Will Levis has been, even against teams that you would think, okay, he doesn't have to do that to win, kind of had to do that. Gone over 300 yards. Now, a couple things there. Number one, their offensive line's had some struggles. They have not played particularly well. Even watching the Northern Illinois game, I mean, they got beat at the point of attack a good bit in that game, which I think was probably pretty concerning to their staff. But they also have been missing Chris Rodriguez up until the Ole Miss game. And for me, that is a pretty significant caveat. Rodriguez, first game back against Ole Miss, getting him back makes this a more difficult team to defend and makes them, I think, automatically a better rushing team. Now, did they go and do a wonderful job against Ole Miss last week? No, they didn't. And they still only scored, at the end of the day, they scored 19 points, which isn't very good. Not going to win you a lot of games. But Rodriguez, just to illustrate the point, he had 72 yards on 19 carries. It's not great, 3.8 yards. But here's the troubling stat. I think when you bring it forward to South Carolina, what we've seen from their defense this season, 61 of his yards are after contact. 61.
But that means his offensive line / tight ends blocked for 11 yards.
That would be correct.
That's insane.
So it's both. So you could say, their offensive line, they're not very good, which I agree with. I don't think they're particularly good up front this year in pass protection or opening lanes in the run game. But Chris Rodriguez can be an equalizer to that. He can turn a nothing into 3 yards, or he can turn a 3 yards into 8. And I saw that against Ole Miss. 7 forced missed tackles in that game. So you think about South Carolina's performance against Arkansas, or even in the Charlotte and SC State game, not on a large scale. You don't really remember it because of how they won the game, but got gashed a couple times. These are things that they really are going to have to clean up.
So, Wes, it feels like Carolina's game plan is, let's say, assuming full health. Let's say Levis isn't banged up at all. Let's say he's 100%. I feel like South Carolina's game plan still should be stack the box, try to stop the run. And where is the strength of Carolina's defense right now? I feel like, interestingly, compared to where we were last year, it feels it's probably in the secondary. Darius Rush back and healthy. Cam Smith back and healthy. The emergence of Nick Emmanwori. Devontae Reed got banged up a little bit, and he's back and healthy and has been very solid this year. I feel like Carolina should just feel comfortable taking its chances with those guys on an island, stop the run. Without Levis, I think you almost double down on that and say, love to watch, what's his name? Kai Sharon try to beat Carolina. What is any part of that wrong? And if so, is there a better approach to the game for Carolina defensively?
No, I mean, I think that's got to be the approach, and it's probably the approach even if Levis plays. Like, I think he would be. You'd be a little bit more worried about him turning around and hurting you, basically, by making a great throw or making a throw with the guy in his face. The thing about that plan, and people are going to say, stack the box. That's kind of obvious. That's what they're going to do. And really, a lot of times this defense is, what you would call like a single high safety defense anyway, which means you have the other safety playing up around the line of scrimmage. So a lot of times they're going to have guys around the box anyway. Ultimately, you still have to get off blocks. You still have to go tackle Rodriguez. And I think in this game, to Chris's point, you're probably going to see them have the ability and the opportunity to get off blocks. Kentucky's offense, in their front in particular, has not shown that they can sustain blocks and give their backs room. The key is going to be getting enough guys to Rodriguez and getting him to the ground and, not having all those forced missed tackles. But yeah, I think that's the plan. I wonder, personnel-wise, do you even make a few tweaks going into this game? They've talked about, all the different defensive tackles that play for South Carolina, even having the Orr there on the depth chart, do you possibly do what we've seen them do a couple times and put Tonka out there at the edge spot and get 3 of those defensive tackles on the field at the same time? Do you kind of run a little bit of, we've seen them mix in, if you looked for it, there's been a little bit of actual true 3-4 at times this year where they had the 3 down linemen, then they had the 2 sort of edge guys, buck guys, whatever you want to call them, lined up as stand-up edge, and it almost creates like a 5-2 with your 2 normal linebackers still in there as well. So do you do a little bit of that? Kentucky, not just a team that likes to run the football, they like to personnel-wise put 2 tight ends on the field. If you're going to match personnel, you're probably not. South Carolina does a lot of 4-2-5. Like, they are very committed to that personnel. But this might be one of the few weeks where you say, all right, we're going to tweak. We're going to get an additional linebacker potentially on the field.
Well, somebody texted us yesterday pointing out that Ole Miss used a lot of 5 defensive lineman sets, just like a more traditional kind of 5-2 look. And I wonder if, when we saw the depth chart, there were some oars of the defensive tackle. Is Carolina maybe trying to take a page out of Ole Miss's playbook? Because you mentioned, maybe going to the 3-4. If you're Carolina, you feel better about having more available bodies on the defensive line than a linebacker with Mo Cobb out. So do you see, Jordan Birch on one end, Tonka on the other, and then you go, roll in Zach Boogie and MJ, or maybe just have, your 2 linebackers in Brad and Sherrod. That's 7 guys in the box every time. You got your 4 best defensive backs on the field, and you just roll with it. Just make either Will Levis on a bum foot or Kai Sharon beat you through the air. I wonder if we'll see some of that look.
Yeah, and the semantic side of it, when I say 3-4, South Carolina's version of that is, from a personnel standpoint, basically three of your quote unquote interior linemen, and then your normal edge guys on the outside. So it would be Birch and
Edmond
on the outside, and then whatever combination, Zach, MJ, Tonka, Boogie, those guys on the inside. Or if you wanted to still run your 4-2-5, an option would be basically you would replace Gilbert with Tonka, so it would be Tonka and Birch on the outside, and then Zach and MJ or Boogie on the inside. Chris, you look at the personnel guys as well, man. It doesn't seem like the last couple of years they've run a whole lot of actual, true, traditional 4-3 personnel.
That was a huge talking point in like the middle of, what was that, 3 seasons ago, when Carolina actually did roll out a little bit of 4-3, and everyone's like, oh, they fixed the defense.
It was Sherrod Green.
Yeah,
and it was against Kentucky, I think, is the funny thing. That
the one they actually won in the last 8 years?
Yeah, where they ran the ball down Kentucky's throat. And it was before Kentucky realized, we can just put a wide receiver at quarterback. Right. But yeah, they had Sherrod Green. So I think that'll be something to watch if you are like a game within the game person that really likes to pay attention to the numbers and names on the field. What is South Carolina's approach up front? And, is it that you put an extra linebacker on the field? Is it that you go to, this 3-4, which is essentially like a 5-2? Or are you replacing DQ Smith, your nickelback with a linebacker? Are you just playing Imamori in the box all game? Are you playing RJ in the box all game?
Let me say Imamori in the box all game.
There are some things you can do.
Yeah.
You got
my vote.
No, you got to realize whichever safety you play in the box, you're leaving the other one as your free safety, your last line of defense. And deep cover guy. So
if you're playing Kai Sharon, I feel like you can take that chance.
So you got decisions to make.
I will say too, I think Gilbert's been good this year, considering he was unexpectedly thrust into that role. Feels like just not really the Gilbert Edmond game. Like I have a feeling we'll see a lot of Tonka at end on Saturday.
Well, and I was gonna say, going back to the 3-4 or the 5-man front or whatever you want to call it, South Carolina ran some of that against Arkansas early in the game and had to get away from it. Shane Beamer called it a 5-man front. Same difference, whatever, semantics, like Wes said. And in that version, I think we saw some Nick Barrett in that version as like a nose type player. And of course, South Carolina ultimately got away from that. Reason being, Boogie got banged up in that game, and Jordan Strong went down in that game. And so maybe they're thinking, all right, we're not rolling Gilbert Edmond into this as much. And that was before, I think, y'all correct me if I'm wrong, I think that was before they had shifted Tonka to playing some end. I think the Georgia game was maybe the first time we had seen that.
Yeah.
So that would presumably be on the table, for this game.
Yeah. A lot of good things to watch for there. 803-404-6100. Anything else on your mind that you're looking for specifically with some of those matchups? We'd love to hear from you in the text line or in the Love Chevy phone line, and you can get us on Twitter too, at Pearson Fowler, at Coach B Tweets. He's not here, but you can still tweet at him. I mean, talking about muscle memory, that's twice today. At Wes Mitchell GC, at GC Chris Clark. On the other side, Chris has done the breakdown of the star comparison between these two teams. Kentucky had Carolina's number. Doesn't feel like they're usually more talented, even if the teams have been better of late. But what does the star comparison tell us about this year's matchup between Carolina and Kentucky?
More of the Extra Point coming up next on 107.5 The Game.
Zero Res Carpet and Air Duct Cleaning, the most trusted and reviewed cleaning company in town. Take advantage of their fall sale going on now. Get 3 rooms of carpet clean for only $119 when you mention me, Bill Gunner, at 107.5 The Game. Easily schedule your cleaning online at ZeroResColumbia.com.
Gamecock Nation, year 2 of the Shane Beamer era is here, and GamecockCentral.com wants to be your source for in-depth coverage and insider information. Come join our exclusive community of South Carolina fans today at GamecockCentral.com.
South Carolina weather can be a little crazy. Make sure your biggest investment is protected. Call the guys in the powder blue trucks, the Guttermen. They've been providing top-notch service throughout the Midlands for over 40 years. Call the Guttermen today at 791-7147. That's 791-7147.
We keep the clutter out out of your gutter. Call on the gutter man.
Prescription products require an online consultation with a healthcare provider who will determine if a prescription is appropriate. Restrictions apply. See website for full details and important safety information. Subscription required. Refund available for 60 days after purchase.
Guys, want an effective, affordable way to get ED medication 100% online? Whether you're looking for Viagra or Cialis, or generic medications as effective as Viagra but 90% cheaper, you can find it all through HIMS. HIMS is your go-to for doctor-trusted treatments to help you treat ED. Get ED treatment for as low as $3 per use and save up to $1,000 per month with generic for Viagra versus the brand name at 4hims.com/radio. If prescribed, your medication will be shipped to your door in discreet packaging. Do it all online. No in-person appointments. Get hard results with HIMS or your money back. Go to 4hims.com/radio to get your first visit free. That's 4hims.com/radio to get started free. FORHIMS.com/RADIO.
Since 1964, Gateway Supply has been the Midland's leader in plumbing and HVAC supply, and now, of course, they are statewide with more than 15 locations all across South Carolina. Their showrooms are filled with bath and kitchen fixtures from classic to modern styles. Now, tap and touchless faucets. You can even talk to your kitchen sink. See them at Hamrick Street near the Fairgrounds in Williams-Brice, or Highway 6 and Whiteford Way in Lexington. Design services, expert advice for customers and contractors alike. Visit them online at gatewaysupply.net.
Hey guys, it's me, wrestling legend Ric Flair, and I'm on a mission to help millions of guys put more flair down there with Mount Everest. Unlike generic ED treatment programs that can take up to 60 minutes to work, Mount Everest can have you standing at attention in as little as 5 minutes. You'll have an absolutely mind-blowing experience every time. That's because only Mount Everest offers a unique 3-in-1 custom compounded medication. Mount Everest will make you a kiss-stealing, wheeling-dealing son of a gun like me every night. Don't lose another night to ED. Put some flair down there with Mount Everest. Woo!
See if Mount Everest is right for you. Go to joinnuimage.com now and use promo code RADIO to save 20%. That's join, the letters NU, image.com, and use promo code RADIO to save 20%. Go to joinnuimage.com and save 20% with promo code RADIO.
At the Samuels Reynolds Law Firm, we've seen how terrible accidents turn lives upside down, and we're proud to be the lawyers our clients depend on during their toughest moments. I'm Jason Reynolds. Call me when your family is faced with any serious injury or death.
And I'm Stephen Samuels. When you're hurt at work, I go to work, getting you the medical treatment and workers' compensation you depend on. We have the experience and passion you need when you need it most.
Samuels Reynolds. True injuries, true lawyers. 779-4000.
It's the Gamecock Central Takeover Hour. Presented by Firehouse Subs. Founded by firemen with Pearson Fowler, Chris Clark, and Wes Mitchell. On the home of the Gamecocks. 107.5 The Game.
11:37 on a Thursday morning, Friday Eve around here. Welcome back into the Gamecock Central Takeover Hour. Pearson, Wes, and Chris here with you. No Preston. Caught myself that time. He'll be back tomorrow to talk more about Kentucky, Mason-Dixon Lions. Be a fun Friday show. A lot of other good SEC games that we want to talk about as well. Before we jump back into some more on Kentucky and South Carolina, if any of you need to move, that's something that people have to do from time to time. It's not usually something you look forward to, but you don't have to dread it if you call Wes's guys.
Yeah, moving can suck. We all know that. And our friends at Gamecock Moving will help make it much more smooth for you. Again, as always, we tell you a few times a week, GamecockMoving.com, 803-814-3569. You can call, you can text, either way, whichever you prefer. They have residential and commercial moving services. They are licensed, bonded, and insured. They can help you move anywhere in the state of South Carolina, as well as assisting in coordinating your out-of-state moves. As I've told you many times, they actually helped me and my fiance get all of our stuff from 2 houses. It was a lot of stuff consolidated into one, and they actually had us completely moved in and unpacked in the time it took them to get out there, and then before the Arkansas game even kicked off, which, if you remember, was a noon kickoff. So I think they started at maybe 8, and they had us ready to go in time to watch some of game day before. So they can do the same for you. GamecockMoving.com, 803-814-3569.
Michael is on hold on the Love Chevy phone line. Let's talk about the Kentucky game. What's up, Michael?
How's it going, guys? I think the key for Carolina's success is for the offensive line to set a tone early. Get the defense on their heels and just let Marshawn Lloyd eat. Just keep feeding him the ball because the Kentucky defensive line seems to be thin and they don't have exactly the rotation that they need to go all 4 quarters.
Michael, thanks for the call. Thin is not a word I would use to describe those defensive linemen. They got some big dudes up there, but yeah, Okay, is 20 enough touches total for the game for Marshawn Lloyd?
I'm glad you brought that up because I was thinking through that. Just going back and looking, there wasn't a firm. I kind of thought that like the data would show that there was some type of firm trend on, hey, when they give Marshawn Lloyd the ball this many times at that point, this happens. That's kind of true. Sometimes some other things have happened to derail that, but I think we can generally say
things happen,
right?
All they ever do.
Or don't happen. But I think generally you can make that point that Marshawn Lloyd, look, he's been the most dangerous running back. We know that for sure. And he's also been dangerous in the receiving game. I mean, particularly South Carolina, we covered this yesterday. They finally have been able to hit some screens this season. You think about one he had at Arkansas, even against SC. I mean, scored a touchdown on one against SC State, had another one in that game. He can catch the ball and make some things happen in the open field. So,
Marshawn Lloyd is 9th in the SEC in all-purpose yards.
Yeah. So I think he needs to have one thing that I came away and looked at all the games so far this season, all 5, what Marshawn's done. I came away saying he needs to have 10 touches in the first quarter.
Yes.
Is kind of what I landed on, whether it's run or pass.
So let me not ask it, is this enough? If Marshawn Lloyd touches the football 40 times on Saturday, is that too much?
Yes. That's a lot.
Okay.
Wow.
If he touches the ball 35 times, is that too much? Really? Okay. If he touches the ball 30 times, is that too much?
I think 25 is a good high but solid number.
Okay.
My key when it involves Marshawn Lloyd is that when they have an opportunity for a big play, and we've all, I mean, how many times do you see it? If any team, not just South Carolina, everything opens up. You have that screen called at the perfect time, and then one guy misses a block or one guy trips up Lloyd. I mean, how many times have we seen Lloyd almost? I know he's broken some off, but he has had some. I mean, super close to break plays. Kentucky doesn't give you a lot.
Mm-hmm.
So if you get a shot at a big play against them, I feel like you got to hit it. And to me, that doesn't necessarily just mean like a downfield throw. I think they're certainly going to, I would imagine, try to scheme up a couple of different things in the passing game to get Lloyd the ball in space. We've seen that, and they've actually done a pretty good job of that this year. So if you have a shot at that, you got to hit it. One thing Marcus Satterfield was talking about, maybe we'll talk about this a little bit with the star power comparison as well. These guys they just know what they're doing. They know what they're supposed to be from a coaching standpoint. There's a lot of, I believe, real respect from the Carolina coaches for how Kentucky operates on defense.
Yeah, I think that's fair. We heard Shane Beamer express a lot of that on Tuesday. Heard some of that from Marcus Satterfield yesterday. I think he said, if you're a football purist, it's a joy to watch Kentucky play defense. As much as the Will Levis injury has been the headline today, losing Jacquez Jones out of the middle is a huge loss for Kentucky and could be a big factor for South Carolina. They still have DeAndre Square, who's one of those guys that I feel like has been at Kentucky for 15 years now and is a really solid SEC linebacker, but Jones is a big loss.
Yeah, I think Rich Brooks recruited DeAndre Square. But no, Jones, who transferred from Ole Miss, I mean, he got injured. I didn't realize how early he got injured against Ole Miss and came back and played. I think he had a pick in that game too. So he gutted it out, but sounds like he's pretty doubtful I haven't seen anything official saying he's out, but he seems pretty doubtful. Additionally, Flax, one of their offensive tackles, also went down in the Ole Miss game, and there's been some chatter about him missing too. So they're kind of banged up. They're also, we don't know about JJ Weaver, who has been, a starter for them when he's been healthy. Last we heard there was a chance he could go, but he's one of their edge guys who's a really good player and can certainly rush the passer. So, if South Carolina could finally catch a break in terms of having some guys on the other team out, that would be a positive. It's still going to be a big challenge. I mean, there's no Marquand McCall this year, I think he was about 370. He caused a lot of issues the last time for South Carolina, but they do still have, like you said, they've got a lot of size up front. Linebackers are very active. They got a lot of long, athletic defensive backs as well. So,
number 6, one of their safeties is a good player. I mean, it's a tough matchup, but when we talk about context in the season or just in general, like timing being everything, South Carolina at least trending up right now from a health perspective. Wanham back, Rush back, Spalding back. A lot of the guys with nagging injuries seem to be close to 100%. Kentucky trending the opposite direction in health. I think even more reason for Carolina to emphasize trying to be the aggressor, trying to be the punisher, when so often they have been on the opposite end of that in these Kentucky games of late. Thanks for the call, Michael. 803-404-6100. We will officially, sorry, I teased it there and didn't get to it, but before we get out of here today, we'll get to Chris's star power comparison for this Carolina-Kentucky game next.
The Halftime Show with Jay, Terry, and Tommy.
Noon to 3.
On your home of the Gamecocks.
107.5 The Game.
High school coverage on 107.5 The Game is sponsored by Love Chevrolet.
South Carolina fans, this is DeCarrion Jordan. The Garnet Trust is connecting fans like you with athletes like myself through NIL deals. Head on over to GarnetTrust.com to find out how you can support me and my teammates for as little as $10.
Family is strong, reliable, and always there. Shepherd's Glass has taken this approach in commercial, residential, and auto glass installation, repair, and replacement for over 50 years. Here's Kevin Hunter of Simplified Office Systems.
Biggest thing I see with Shepherd's Glass is the family atmosphere. You got 3-4 generations running that company, and you can just see the consistency that's built on trust and loyalty. These folks do what they say they're going to do, and they make the right things happen. And the crazy thing is they always come in under budget, which as a business owner, I love. They've done everything from work on my commercial building to my home and even did work at my parents' home. Phenomenal service, great people. This is Kevin Hunter. I'm the owner of Simplified Office Systems, and Shepherd's Glass is truly a partner to SOS.
Visit shepherdsglass.com to see and learn more. Shepherdsglass.com, a true reflection of quality.
Shepherd's Glass, a true reflection of quality.
Cliff had a project he had to get done. He was in a hurry because the game was coming on. He put on his shoes, he put on his socks. Then out the door he went to install a mailbox. He was forgetting something he couldn't quite recall. Then it hit him. I have to make a call. He ran in the house, he grabbed his phone. He quickly dialed 811. His lines are marked so he can dig without flaw. It was fast, free, and easy, and it was also the law. Sponsored by South Carolina 811. Aired by SCBA in this station.
At the Samuels Reynolds Law Firm, we've seen how terrible accidents turn lives upside down, and we're proud to be the lawyers our clients depend on during their toughest moments. I'm Jason Reynolds. Call me when your family is faced with any serious injury or death.
And I'm Stephen Samuels. When you're hurt at work, I go to work getting you the medical treatment and workers' compensation you depend on. We have the experience and passion you need when you need it most.
Samuels Reynolds. True injuries, true lawyers. 779-4000.
Chris Cuomo is back with a new show on a new network. Catch Cuomo weeknights on News Nation at 8, 7 Central. To find News Nation on your television provider, go to newsnation.com/join us.
Football season is upon us, and there's nothing better than watching your favorite team with company in a clean home. With over 1,800 Google reviews and a 4.9 star rating, Zerorez Carpet and Air Duct Cleaning is the most highly reviewed cleaning company in the Midlands. Their patented no residue cleaning system gets your carpets, rugs, and upholstery insanely clean. Take advantage of their fall sale going on now. Get 3 rooms of carpet clean for only $119 when you mention me, Bill Gunner, at 107.5 The Game. Easily schedule your cleaning online at ZerorezColumbia.com.
Broadcasting live from the Herndon Chevrolet Studios. This is 107.5 The Game. Stop by or shop online today and see why Herndon Chevrolet makes you smile.
It's the Gamecock Central Takeover Hour.
Presented by Firehouse Subs. Founded by firemen with Pearson Fowler,
Chris Clark, and Wes Mitchell.
On the home of the Gamecocks.
107.5
The Game.
Welcome back into the Gamecock Central Takeover Hour. A couple minutes left here, 11 minutes in front of noon here on a Thursday morning. Plenty more in Carolina, Kentucky. All day here on 107.5 The Game. We'll get Chris's star comparison breakdown in just a second, but want to remind you again, Heath Klein and Game Time will be out at Columbia Craft on Green Street tomorrow from 3 until 6. So make sure you go see them on location. Columbia Craft, of course, can be your game day headquarters, and they're proudly distributed throughout the Midlands by KW Beverage. So, Chris, I think a lot of Carolina fans' frustration in the recent run, I mean, anytime anybody beats you 7 out of 8 years, it hurts. Carolina is used to being able to dominate Kentucky historically, and I think adding insult to injury has been the fact that most of these Carolina teams have not been less. When Georgia beats you 7 out of 8 times, it's Georgia. When Kentucky beats you 7 out of 8 times, it doesn't feel like the Wildcats are significantly more talented than South Carolina. Seems like maybe even more true this year.
Yeah, I mean, if you're going by on paper rankings out of high school or junior college, which that's imperfect, as we all know, for a whole slew of reasons. But just strictly on the kind of star power, the star rankings, I mean, South Carolina has it at most positions. There's a couple that are even, I think. You could probably call defensive back and linebacker. You could call those pretty even. But D-line and O-line, tight end, running back, and quarterback, South Carolina would have the advantage in terms of starters there. Wide receiver would actually be Kentucky. South Carolina has some oars there, but I kind of, going off of who plays the most, Wells, Brown, and Brooks would lose out from a ranking standpoint to Dane Key, Barry and Brown, and Tavion Robinson. But yeah, South Carolina has, I mean, you look at Marshawn Lloyd. He was higher ranked than either of Kentucky's backs. Spencer Rattler was ranked higher than Will Levis. Tight ends, Bell and Stogner were both 4 stars. Carolina's got an additional 4-star on the offensive line. They've got a couple 5 stars starting on the D-line. So you see there from just an on-paper standpoint, they have the advantage. Now, that doesn't always carry over to the games. It's not just a South Carolina thing where it may not carry over at certain spots, but that's kind of the deal.
Well, I think it comes back to the idea that you mentioned, Wes, just about how, well, we talk about player development, and I think this is part of player development, but not exactly the same thing, but just knowing how to use your personnel.
Well, I think I'm glad you went that direction. I think it even goes deeper than that. You look at the teams like Kentucky on defense, look at Wake Forest and how, that thing about basically nobody from their team was an ESPN 300 or whatever, and Clemson had like 100 of them from there. It's like, well, how are they playing with Clemson? And in the case of Kentucky, they know what they are defensively. And, Chris and I were talking, they've had same defensive coordinator for 4 years.
Yeah.
Even prior to that, I mean, Mark Stoops is going to have his handprint on this defense the entire way. So they know what they want to be defensively, and then they recruit to that. So it's even, I would say, a step deeper than just, let's build this defense around our personnel. It's we're going to stick to a plan and then recruit the exact body types, the exact speed, the exact guys we need to fit this. And I think if you look at Kentucky's defense traditionally, they do play a bunch of upperclassmen. Now, it doesn't mean every guy's going to be a junior or senior. You got some transfers in the mix that are playing as well. Maybe a redshirt freshman here, a true freshman there.
I say Mark Stoops is old school enough that maybe he doesn't know they took away the rule where you can't play freshmen.
Well, it works for them, man. Like, you can sit there, and it's kind of interesting. You can sit there as a fan base and be like, well, I want my coaches to be able to develop guys like that staff does. Well, you also have to be willing to be patient with guys, because they take an old school approach of this is what we do. You got to sit in and learn it. And you may not be the 5-star guy, but if you're a 3-star guy who fits the mold and is willing to wait and is willing to develop, then you can play your last couple of years here. And for them, it has worked.
Clayton White talked yesterday, having been in the state of Kentucky, obviously at Western Kentucky. I think they played Kentucky back when, I don't know, maybe like Joker Phillips was there. I don't know if he played Mark Stoops, but he has talked yesterday. I want to let you hear this about just the transformation he's seen in the Kentucky program from when he was coaching in the state of Kentucky to now.
So, I mean, I would say the first thing that I would say Coach Stoops, me and Coach Stoops know each other through some mutual friends. And when I worked at Stanford, we was on the flight together back in the day, coming from somewhere, Arizona, probably California. But just watching someone like that build a program, it gives you confidence. And if you keep sticking to it, sticking to your core values and believing in your staff and believing in the recruiting process and just continue getting better every year and just keep getting players. Got to get players. And I think it is nice to see that with the way college is going now. Coaches getting 2 and 3 years to make changes. And that's unfortunately not long enough. It's just nice to see that for us. As a middle-aged old coach, it's nice to see that a university is giving a guy a great opportunity to build a program.
Preston's not here, but I don't mind speaking for him to say, Kentucky, along with Iowa, Michigan State, among Preston's program crushes, and it's for that exact reason that Clayton White expressed. It's the strength of what Kentucky does, and frankly, it's something that can work everywhere. It's not unique to Kentucky or Iowa or Michigan State, but it's just, do you have the institutional stability and the support, and can you make an infrastructure that supports? Yes, like maybe it's going to take a long view, but I mean, 2 10-win seasons in the last 4 years, and that's unprecedented for Kentucky.
It can work, but you still have to have the right guy. Like you have to have the right coach.
Yeah,
you can't.
Carolina could have kept Will Muschamp for 5 more years, and they probably still wouldn't have won the East.
Yeah, you can't just let somebody just run it into the ground, But I think it does take a great deal of patience, and it takes a great deal of being willing to stand in against like the Twitter mob who is just ready, fire, to be like, no, I'm making this decision and I believe in this guy.
Yeah, they won 17 games in Mark Stoops' first 5 years.
I think the first 3 were the same as Joker Phillips' first 3 years.
Yeah, I think it was seriously like maybe 1 win his first season, and then 3, and then 2. 3, and then 5, and then 5. So 2. Okay, so it was
2, 5, and 5. It's actually a little bit better.
I thought it was 2, like 3, 3, 5, 5.
I thought that too for some reason, but yeah, 2, 5, and 5. Now it was on a more of an upward trajectory than Joker. Like but still,
it's a rare instance of just like plain linear progress, because it was like 3, 5, 5, 7, 7, 10. I think was the progression.
And he made, he almost got fired.
Mm-hmm.
So I've said this kind of recently. 2 of the best coaching jobs in recent memory for college football are Mark Stoops at Kentucky and Dabo Swinney at Clemson. They were both almost fired, like very, very close. Now that doesn't mean, like y'all were just saying, that doesn't mean, oh, well, a guy's struggling, he just needs more time. No, sometimes he does not need more time.
Yeah, staff changes and recruit better, and
but it also does show that there is sometimes if certain things are going right and it's the right guy, like Wes said, that he does need more time.
Yeah, and I guess to put a bow on it as we wrap things up here in the Gamecock Central Hour, there's no reason that South Carolina can't replicate a similar program to what Mark Stoops has built at Kentucky. Similar programs in terms of being below the line in the SEC. You just have to, form an identity. You have to create an existing framework that fits and go execute. We'll see if Carolina can do that on Saturday. Thank you all for listening, being a part of the show as always. We'll be back with our final thoughts, predictions, matchups, etc. But the halftime show is coming up next.